Broadcasting the boisterous part of the fastest game in the world. So strap on your lids and lace them up, Rook. You're listening to the BarnChirpers Hockey Podcast. Take a lap. Clap it up, boys. Clap it up. Captain wearing his Ottawa Senators sweater from Fanatics. And we know the quality of the... Have you washed it yet? Have you had to? Is it falling apart yet?
No,
Good.
I wore it very sparingly, so I wouldn't have to.
Good call. Yeah, solid. I wouldn't wear that necessarily on a road trip and go into a barn.
Nope.
It might start to fall apart. But that's other things. You know who we are. We're the BarnChirpers. Chirp at us on Instagram and Threads at BarnChirpersPod. You know how to do all the other things. It's 2023. If you're listening to a podcast, you know what to do. If you're watching us, hey, you can see our beautiful faces. Hit that subscribe button and all that good stuff. We'd appreciate it. So later on, in about, 10 minutes or so, probably sooner than that, we're going to do a little trade talk. So we'll get to that. But before that, we have another sweater game to play.
Oh,
Another sweater game. And the hint that I gave Justin last week is I only have Western Conference remaining. So that's a little hint. He doesn't have to waste a question on which conference it is. So again, if you're new to this game, I have a new sweater, and Justin is going to ask me a question. I'm going to tell him hot or cold, and then he has 3 guesses, and then he has to guess what the sweater is. And if he gets it, then bonus points that don't matter. And that's the game. And that's what we like to do here.
I actually won last week.
I did
for the first time. I don't think I've. No, I nailed one. I nailed your Tager.
You did. You did. Yep, that's right. That was early on. You nailed the Tage Thompson one. Yep.
So we know it's a Western Conference team.
Yep.
I'm going to take a floater here because we both love this squad right now. And so it might. But I'm going to go a direct route, which I normally don't do. Is it a Vancouver Canuck?
White hot.
Ooh, okay. All right. Is it a forward?
White hot.
Okay. Is it a current player?
White hot.
Oh, man. So here goes the guess. I got to go with what I was thinking initially. Is it Elias Pettersson?
It is Elias Pettersson.
Oh, snap.
You got it. 3 in a row. Look at that. The home blue.
I've really come around on these. I still am not a huge fan of the whale crest, but I feel like the color makes up for it. Like when in the early 2000s, like whenever they switched to that logo and it was like red and blue or something, I did not like it. Something about the way the green and the blue comes together makes it makes the shark whale thingy okay by me. And I love. This is silly, but I love the numbers and letters. I love that font that the Canucks use. I think it's terrific.
Yeah, so I went with this one. I don't like the name on the crest, right? I already know it's Vancouver. I don't want to see Vancouver. I don't like that for any squad. There's something about it where I'm like, ugh. With the exception of, I did mention the 1999 Dallas Stars sweater. For whatever reason, I love that one. But normally, like I see the city name, I don't like it. I don't like it at all. You know what I mean? And I don't necessarily love the number 40, but for whatever reason, yeah, this sweater, this Elias Pettersson one sticks out. I do like the stick on the shoulder pad. And of course, I would go with a flying skate because the flying skate is top tier. But they didn't have my size, a 2X, in the flying skate for Elias Pettersson. So my first Canucks sweater had to be an Elias Pettersson. There was no doubt about it in my mind. So when I go through again, and as I continue to collect my NHL sweaters, I'll end up getting a flying skate at some point.
Yeah, I'm actually in the process of saving up my pennies to get another one for me and for Liam. Liam wants one. And
Nice.
I think we settled on, actually, you know what? I'm not going to tell you because
Yeah, sweater game. That's a
sweater
double
game,
sweater game right there.
yeah.
So I lied a little bit. It didn't take us 10 minutes to get here, but let's get the captain's first line out here. So again, we're going to talk about a little trade talks today. And I did smarten Justin up a little bit as to what we're going to do, but we have not gone over who's on the trade block and what I'm going to ask him. So this is live reactions to this. So I'm going to start out with, we're talking about the Vancouver Canucks. Let's talk about them.
Mhm.
So currently, they are now the first in the Pacific Division by 2 points over the Vegas Golden Knights. They are currently still with a plus 46 goal differential. They are the best in the league. They do share win percentage with the LA Kings right now at 700 with their winning percentage. But Justin, number one in the Pacific, the Vancouver Canucks, they have acquired Nikita Zadorov on the back end this year. They just required another depth guy last week that we talked about. So first question to you, do the Vancouver Canucks buy or sell at the trade deadline?
Oof. I mean, because where they are, you would automatically think they're buyers to like find something that's going to put them over the edge, right? Like, but team chemistry, especially in hockey, is huge.
Yep.
Yep. They're roaring right now, and I don't know how much you mess with that. Of the two, I have to go buyer. I can't imagine them selling at this point. I think it's more likely that they try to bring in some sort of depth piece as opposed to selling anything off. So I'm going to go with buyer.
I agree. I think they're definitely not sellers. They're trying to find that depth piece that's remaining to get them over the hump and to win a Stanley Cup. Because as we know, depth guys over the last couple of years, it's the depth guys that have won Stanley Cups. You look at last year, the Chandler Stevensons of the world. I was going to say Marshall. So he's a top line guy, but at one point he was just a depth guy in his career. So your William Karlssons, so on and so forth. Your Keegan Colasars, even. Riley Smith, those are depth guys, right? That contributed to the Cup win last year. So I feel like Vancouver is definitely a buyer trying to find that piece. So your next question, I'm going to give you a couple of guys that are on the trade block. Would they be a good fit in Vancouver? First guy I'm bringing up that comes to my mind, Anthony Duclair of the San Jose Sharks. Depth guy, can get you some scoring here and there. He did very well in Florida last year, or over the last couple of years in their playoff runs. So Anthony Duclair I'm looking at. Another guy that I'm looking at, Jake Gensel from the Pittsburgh Penguins. Also another possible depth guy to add some scoring. And on the back end, I'm looking at the Calgary Flames and all they have to offer. Noah Hannafin, perhaps. Chris Tanev, perhaps. Also, this would be on the front end as well, Elias Lindholm. So do any of those three guys stand out to you, or do you have another option that Vancouver could possibly go out and get?
Well, I mean, right off the jump, you put out Duclair. I think he slots in nicely, on their second or third line. I'd have to look at their actual lineup to know where he would slot in.
Yeah, sure. We don't have to go that in depth with it.
Right. But as a depth guy, you take him off that, unfortunately dreadful Sharks team, but we knew that this was going to be the deal with Duclair going to the Sharks.
Yeah, we said that in preseason.
Yeah. But to land up in Vancouver and possibly be that guy who's just chipping in goals, to get them through the second and third round into the Cup, whatever it is. I like that one. Out of the names that you brought up, I like that one a lot in Vancouver.
Agreed. I think he would just add that little bit. He doesn't have to be a play every night type guy. I mean, you could throw him on your third or fourth line, but you don't necessarily have to. He could be that guy on standby when you really need it. If somebody goes, down the stretch, guys are going to get hurt. Probably, hopefully not, but you got to have guys to fill in there. Sticking in the Western Conference, Justin, I want to bring up. I'm just going to go ahead and bring up the Vegas Golden Knights. Kind of talk to them a little bit. So they were owning the Pacific, and while they're still in a playoff spot, they're number 2 in the Pacific, but they've struggled a little bit recently, and their star goaltender, Aiden Hill, has been out for the last couple of weeks. I know this because he's on my fantasy team. So they don't really truly have a tendy, in my view. So first thing, I kind of buried the lead there, but first thing, Vegas Golden Knights, are they buyers or sellers at the trade deadline?
Ooh, again, they're definitely not sellers. They have to be buyers, I think. Like, yeah. I mean, I don't know if there's any more to it than that. I think they're buyers. Yeah.
So I'm going to give you this question. With Aiden Hill he was out, and then they were like, oh, he's coming back. He showed up for, I want to say it was a Sunday game, and I think he played like 5 minutes, something like that. And then he went back to the locker room, and now he's on the IR. So could you see Vegas making a trade for one of these possible goaltenders? Jake Allen, Elvis Merzlikins, Spencer Martin. For context, Merzlikins and Spencer Martin are both Columbus Blue Jackets.
Yeah. Yeah. For some reason, Elvis really is sticking out to me. Maybe it's because when the first game against the Devs, like, he stood on his head against us, and it's like, but you a veteran presence, even though it's Elvis, like, a guy you don't really have to worry about nerves, and then you put him behind, instead of Columbus, you put him behind that Vegas team. Does that make them world beaters? I don't know, but that's the name that jumps out is Elvis Merzlikins in Vegas. That's weird to say, man.
That would be weird because, so Vegas does have Logan Thompson, but if Aiden Hill can't come back, I mean, I feel like he will, but let's say he doesn't. So now you only have Logan Thompson. And while Logan Thompson did well last year, until he didn't, right?
Mm-hmm.
Something. If I'm the Knights, I feel like we have to have some type of backup plan because I don't know that they really need any other depth pieces for their lineup. I feel like they're still pretty solid. That's kind of the same team as last year. So I would look at that goaltending front. So I'm going to agree with you. Merzlikins wouldn't be terrible there. He might be a good fit. I'm going to round out the Pacific here. The LA Kings, 42 points currently with 5 games in hand in the Pacific Division with a 700 win percentage, plus 34 goal differential. If I can talk, I do podcasts. I do this every week. So buyers or sellers at the deadline, Justin?
Well, again, you don't want to mess with chemistry too much. I don't know that they have much to sell. They're doing really well. They got to be buyers. This is why I'm very interested what the next layer of the question is. They got to be buyers. They're not sellers, but like, what are they buying? So,
yeah. So, I mean, I'm throwing these 2 names out, which I wanted to use them on another point here, but they'll probably come up again. 2 guys that are UFA at the end of the year that don't have a terrible salary cap hit. That, wow, this LA Kings team with either of these guys, I would be fearful to play them. The first name is Steven Stamkos with an $8.5 million contract hit. The second name is Willie Nylander with a $6.9 million contract hit. Could you see the LA Kings buying and trading for either one of these guys?
Man, I got to.
And again, this isn't taking to effect like where they would slot in. We're not really going into that, but could you see either of those 2 names ending up in LA for a cup run?
Man, can you imagine? Like, can you imagine Stammer with that lineup? Wow. Right. And I mean, I feel the same way about Nylander, but like for a different reason. Like, I feel like Nylander's almost some of the same, whereas Stammer is a little something different, like to pepper into that lineup. I could definitely see them making a move for one of them. I think the way it sits now, who's more likely to move somebody and have something to to give back, or wants something from LA. I, where they are right now, it seems like Tampa's more likely to be looking for something, not quite sellers, but like also buyers for whatever Los Angeles. I'm going a long way to say Stammer. Sorry, I was
It would be interesting
really
to see
hammering on.
Stammer in LA. I mean, you're good, man. You're good. I think Stammer said that he wants to stay in Tampa Bay, but they haven't made any efforts to re-sign him. So, is it possible that it happens? It could be. I wouldn't say it's out of the question. So I'm going to move off the West here real quick. I want to jump over to the East and do this one a little bit differently. We're going to talk about the Atlantic Division leaders right now. Boston is number 1 with 44 points. Toronto is tied with Florida with 40 points. Toronto does have 1 game in hand. So out of those 3 division leaders, Justin, who do you think is like, if they're probably all buying something to make a playoff push, I would guesstimate. But who out of those 3 teams do you think is going to make the biggest move?
Oh, all right. So, well, Toronto always makes moves.
Yeah,
because
they do.
They always make moves. Now, are they always big moves? I feel like with their goalie situation, they almost kind of have to make a big move. And I mean, I know Martin Jones is kind of settling in still, but with Wall being out, Sammy being Sammy, I mean, they already have a lot of money sunk into their goal situation, but my inclination, I'm going to stick with my gut. Toronto makes the biggest splash.
Could you see Toronto going out and getting some of those names that I just mentioned in the goalie department? Jake Allen, Elvis Merzlikis, or Spencer Martin?
Yeah. Yeah. I again, what do they offer up? Like Wolves IR?
Sure, that's
but yeah, that's a different conversation. I could definitely see them chasing after. God, I hate to say it, but because I'm hoping that another team is coming up that I'd love to see Jake Allen land on, but that's my inclination.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, Jake Allen.
That's what I was going to say too. Is Toronto going for a guy like Jake Allen, but again, he's not necessarily battle tested, so that could still turn out bad for them. You never know.
That's true.
Which I would love to see and laugh at all the Toronto fans. Also, shout out to Austin Matthews. You're welcome for continuing to chirp you. You're actually earning your contract. Congratulations, their mustache bud. Anyway. Moving on. Of course, the Atlantic is pretty tight there right now with Tampa Bay and Detroit also right on the heels of getting into the playoffs as well. But they're not division leaders right now, so we're not really going to talk about them. Staying in the East, the Metro. Oof. You know, we talked about this multiple times now, obviously, when you said that the Metro is in shambles. And I kind of counter to that by saying, I don't really know if it is. No, I think it is. I think the Metro is definitely in shambles. The Rangers lead are not necessarily moons away, but 47 points, leading the division by 6 points. First thing I'm going to say, I'm going to say this and then ask you the question too, but honestly, I think the Rangers could stay where they're at and not make any moves and probably be just fine. They are they're doing a lot this season without really needing any other pieces. I don't think, other than, again, like I mentioned with Vancouver, they could get out and get a piece that is a depth guy that is kind of on the periph if somebody gets injured. But I don't know. I feel like they don't really need to make a move right now. I feel like they're pretty set. So I guess I'll send it over to you. The Rangers, buy or sell at the or stay at the trade deadline.
I think I agree with you. And if I'm them, that's what I'm doing is I'm staying pat. I stay with what I got. We saw what happened last year. They dealt for Patty Kane. Patty Kane does nothing for them essentially.
And Tarasenko.
And Tarasenko doesn't do much there. They made big moves and it didn't pay off. And they're infinitely they're better this year. Like they're way better than maybe they should be. Like, but
I hate to say it, but they are.
We hate saying this because we do not like the Rangers here on this pod, but props where props is due. They're one of the better teams. Specifically, they're the best team in the Metro. They're one of the better teams in the East and arguably in the league currently. So hats off. I tip my hat to you, Rangers. I agree with you. I don't think they move.
The other New York team, the New York Islanders, sitting second in the Metro with 41 points. Now, here's a team that should make some moves and get rid of some of their old guys. I'm looking at you, Cal Clutterbuck. This is a team that should make moves. I think that they're probably not going to do anything, though, and then they will complain when they get ousted in the first round. Just my take. But what do you think, Justin? Are they buyers or sellers at the trade deadline?
They absolutely need to be buyers. Again, it's hard to say it hasn't panned out. They made the big move for Horvat last year. But this team is still ridiculously boring. But results on the ice and 41 points, they're in second.
They're winning.
I mean, they're winning. So what else, what else can you do? If I'm an Islanders fan, I am absolutely hoping that, they're moving on from some of these players who are not contributing and bringing in some better depth, some goal scoring, some guys that are going to do it on the regular. Again, who's out there? I don't know. I need them to be buyers if I'm an Islanders fan, to answer your question more directly.
Agreed. Yeah, I feel like they need to, but will they pull the trigger? Over the last couple of years, I would bet no. The last team in the Metro that we'll talk about who would be in the playoffs if they started today is the Philadelphia Flyers. We've talked a lot about them over the last few weeks. I feel like they have done, I'll say, too well out of expectations this season that they will probably be a buyer at the trade deadline. And I don't know what exactly they're going to bring in because you don't want to mortgage your future, right? You're performing above expectations this year. Do you want to mortgage your future to make a playoff run right now? I'm not really sure. I mean, two guys that are on the trade block, rumored trade block, is Morgan Frost and Travis Konechny. I asked Corey which one he would rather trade. He's still not getting back to me yet, though. So I would personally say Travis Konechny, I would get more for Travis Konechny, but I think I want to keep him around for continuing this if we're calling it a rebuild. So I feel like I'm dealing off Morgan Frost. And I guess if I'm Philadelphia, I'm a buyer. I guess I'm a buyer. Maybe. If I'm not, I don't have to give up too much. What would you say?
Oh, so putting myself in Corey's shoes here, like as a Flyer fan, they've performed well over expectations. And I keep coming back to this, and it's because they didn't have a great year last year, and they were like cup contenders, like 2 years ago, 3 seasons ago. Favorites going into the year. So, maybe they're just kind of finally put it together. Maybe that's the deal. If I'm a Flyers fan, I want to sell and I want to make sure that we're not, the team has played well. And you just kind of hope that they can be able to do so while kind of like Nashville last year, where they sold and they were still winning games and being, they ended up not making it, but they made a push. I think
they almost got in.
And I think if you're Philadelphia, that would be a best case scenario because you can finally bring in some stuff for, the coming years where you have a better chance of not only getting into the playoffs, but maybe, winning in the playoffs. Although I would not put it past them this year, the way they play. I've watched some Flyers games, and they're just an impressive team to watch.
They are. Yeah. I'm, again, another team that I don't like to give props to, but you know what? I love watching hard work, and the Flyers, you will never outwork the Philadelphia Flyers. Never. Hands down. This season, anyway. This season.
Yeah.
Bounce back over to the West. Yeah, we're going to bounce back over to the West. I'm not going to go through all three of the division leaders in the Central, because I would imagine that both Dallas and Colorado will probably make some type of move. Will it be a massive move? I personally don't think so. They'll probably make a little move, though, I would imagine. But the one team I want to bring up, they are third in the Central with 43 points, but they have 2 games in hand, and technically they have, well, not technically, they do. Technically, they are second because they have a better win percentage at 672 over the Colorado Avalanche's 647. Also, they have the best goal differential in the Central, and that with 27, plus 27. It's the Winnipeg Jets, Justin. And I'm bringing up the Winnipeg Jets because if anybody remembers from the offseason when we did our predictions, and you can go back to listen to that Winnipeg episode, we did not know what this team was doing. And look no further. Winnipeg is winning games. Connor Hellebuck is playing potentially his best season of his career so far. And Winnipeg is just rolling. They are truly rolling right now. So the first thing I ask you, Justin, is Winnipeg buying or selling at the trade deadline this year?
Well, they made those big moves to keep Scheifele and Hellebuck. So you got to imagine they're buyers, right? Again, you hate messing with chemistry, but you got to imagine that they're looking for something to put them up and over the edge.
Agreed. And so with that said, I'm going to bring up 2 familiar names that we already talked about. So, Kyle Connor did go down with a knee injury, so he's out for the next, so it was a 6-week, they said 6 weeks, that's a couple weeks ago, so he's still out for at least another month. So we're getting into, we're only about a little bit over halfway through the season, 30-ish games, 40 games almost. So we've still got, 40 more games to play. If he can't come back 100% healthy, you need another guy that's going to score. So I bring up these names again to you, Justin. What would Anthony Duclair look like in a Winnipeg Jets uniform? What would Jake Gensel look like in a Winnipeg Jets uniform? Or what would Sean Monahan look in a Winnipeg Jets uniform? So Sean Monahan right now last year signed a 1-year extension with the Canadiens, but he's on the trade block. He's a $1.9 million cap hit. And he is performing. He is one of the top scorers on that squad. And again, that's not saying a whole lot right now this year. But Sean Monahan is consistent. And if I'm making a trade, I think I'm looking at Sean Monahan wearing a Winnipeg blue at the trade deadline. I think that would be a solid piece to add for Winnipeg.
I hate to echo your point, but last year they picked up, it didn't look right at the time, but Niederreiter at the deadline from Nashville. And, again, is he setting the world on fire? No, but he's a nice depth piece. And wow, like add a consistent piece like Monahan to a team that's already performing well. I like out of those 3 names, I think Monahan's the one, and he's going to be available, and he's not going to break the bank. I feel like that's the move.
Yeah, so I don't have Gensel's cap hit in front of me, but Duclair, like I said earlier, is a $3 million cap hit. I'm not sure what Winnipeg has to spend right now, but adding any of those depth pieces that can get you some more scoring, I think would be huge for Winnipeg. And truly, Jake Gensel is a $6 million cap hit. So that's a little bit more, depending on how much Winnipeg has to spend, but I definitely think Winnipeg needs to make a couple of moves. And I don't know if I'm necessarily be scared of that squad, but they could definitely make something happen in the playoffs this year. And I'd love to see that. Okay. So we kind of went through everybody and all their division leaders in a way. So these teams are wild card teams currently. Washington, Tampa Bay in the East, and I'm going to give you a couple more that are just on the cusp. Carolina, your Devils, Detroit Red Wings. That's in the East. In the West, Nashville, Arizona. Those are the two wild card spots, and then right on the cusp, St. Louis Blues, Minnesota Wild, Calgary Flames. Out of one team in the East, Justin, one team in the West, who is buying and who is selling? If you were going to say, I guarantee this team is going to buy or sell, who would you pick?
The Devils got to buy. I don't know what. I feel like we got to buy something. I don't know if that's just the homer in me. But I feel like something's missing. I mean, unless we want to just, all right, you know what? I'm going to retract. I'm going to say Washington's going to be sellers.
They need to.
Yeah.
They really need to, truly.
Yeah.
Get some draft capital. Maybe they pick up something, but it's kind of a crock that they're in this wild card spot. Truly, as a Caps fan, really Charlie Lindgren is tugging them along, winning them games. Obviously, we know Kemper's not doing it. I mean, he's won a couple of games. I'll give him a little bit, but generally speaking, obviously Tampa Bay is going to make some moves. They always do. The one that sticks out the most to me out of all those teams, because I'm going to go through this. I think Calgary isn't necessarily eliminated from playoff contention, but they don't know. They have all those pieces that I've already mentioned: Hanifin, Tanev, Lindholm. They have pieces that they could deal off. I feel like they don't know exactly what they're doing, so I'm not really worried about them too much. Minnesota, I mean, they're already kind of in cap hell. What are they going to get or sell, not to mortgage their future? St. Louis, they're in the third wild card spot. They're kind of there because whatever, fluke, if you will. They're just winning games that they're not supposed to. I don't see them making a playoff push. The Yotes, I would love them to obviously keep that spot, get into the playoffs, get those young kids and some of those veteran guys some playoff experience that could surprise people. I don't see them making a lot of big moves. I feel like they're going to worry about the offseason and free agency to build up their squad for next year. Same thing goes with Nashville. They're supposed to be rebuilding, and they're just doing really well. When Trotz came in, that was kind of his plan. Like you said last year, the deadline sold everybody. I think that's still the plan. So moving to the East, this is where it's very interesting to me because three teams that stick out to me that need a goaltender, Justin: the Carolina Hurricanes, the New Jersey Devils, and the Buffalo Sabres. If any of those three teams are going to make any type of push, they need a goaltender. And it just so happens that one guy that we've talked about a lot in the past on the show, John Gibson, has been on the trade block rumors for a long, long, long time. So obviously you would want John Gibson to go to the Devils, but I feel like if Carolina was smart, they would go for John Gibson and get him in between their in between the twine, protecting the twine at the trade deadline. Would you? I'll put it to you like this: John Gibson goes to the Carolina Hurricanes, pass or shoot?
I mean, there's so much to take because Carolina isn't known for moves like that. That's the only thing.
They don't spend money. Yeah, they don't spend money.
That's the only thing that I'm hesitant about with that is they do not spend money. Kochetkov has looked okay. He's had moments where it's he's getting lit up for 4, but they're still managing to win the game. He's not stealing games for him. I guess Ranta cleared waivers and he's back on the club.
Yep.
They sent Yaniv Peretz back down to Norfolk. So, wow. Hey, let's waive this guy and then pick him back up immediately.
Hey, we actually need you to come back on the team, bud.
I the only reason I'm passing is because they don't tend to make moves like that. I think it makes too much sense for them to make that move. So I'm going to pass.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to shoot that just to be contrarian, but again, Carolina doesn't ever spend any money, so I see that I will bet that they're counting on Freddie Anderson to come back. He did start practicing, get cleared to start practicing. I
Oh,
think
good.
last week he was having a blood clot issue. Um, I feel like they are counting on him to come back and Ronta to play okay, and that's their guys. They're not going to spend the money to get a guy like John Gibson. They're not going to spend the money to bring in a guy like Jake Allen or Elvis or Spencer Martin. They're not going to spend the money. And then when they lose again in the Eastern Conference Finals, I'm saying it right now, and they'll continue to get, they'll be Owen, whatever it would be, Owen 18 with this club, because they'll get swept again. Timestamp it here. Then they can whine and complain some more about being the best team in the East, but they just can't get it done. And that's my chirp to the Carolina Hurricanes. But they need to get a goaltender, and John Gibson would be a great fit in Colorado. Well, I would hate it, but he would work well in that Carolina offense / defense with Rod the Bod.
Can you imagine John Gibson with a club in front of him? Like, that's just wild.
I mean, he has a 212 goals against average right now on Anaheim.
Yeah.
If he can do that in Anaheim, imagine being on a boring Carolina defensive team, you know?
Yeah.
So anyway, that was our trade talk. Of course, there's teams that will make a bunch of little moves. It always happens. I don't necessarily. It's weird. I have this feeling this year that there won't be like a massive, like a superstar trade, like this big name guy going anywhere. I feel like it's going to. I just have this gut feeling that it's going to be just a bunch of little moves in kind of a boring trade deadline this year. Do you have that feeling at all? Do you kind of feel like something might be on the horizon?
Well, because last year Timo was the talk, right? At the beginning of the year, it was Timo's on the move. I feel like we don't have anybody out there like that. Maybe Tomas Hertl. I mean, like, he's no Timo Meyer. Like, I love the guy, but like, he's no Timo Meyer. Any teams that would sell a piece like that are playing well, like Vancouver. Like, I would have thought at the beginning of the season, maybe we're talking about Pettersson being on the move, like that's wild. That's a wild take, but like something like that. It doesn't feel like, any of the major stars are wasting away on a team that isn't, not necessarily on the cusp, but like actually progressing. So we talked about Konechny, like maybe being on the move. I don't know that there's anybody out there. I'm going a long way to say I agree with you. I don't think there's a major player out there to be had.
Yeah, I mean, I just last year there was the Patty Kane, Vladimir Tarasenko. Matthew Tkachuk was already a Florida Panther, but just in years past, there's been like big names that were talked about already, and I just feel like this year there hasn't really been a whole lot of big names. So we'll see if stranger things have happened. Speaking of stranger things, the Ottawa Senators still can't win a game. We're going to move into our 3 stars talk here. Let me go ahead. I'm going to set this up for you, then you can kind of take it away. Our 3 stars this week. We're doing so while all these guys are on the list, they're not necessarily the very tippy top over this last week. Of course, there was the Christmas break, so most teams only had 3 games that they played from Wednesday to Wednesday. But what we're doing this week is guys that have seemingly woken up finally, and that they're helping the squad along. So our 3rd star of the week is from the Ottawa Senators, Josh Norris. Played 4 games, 4 goals, 2 assists, 6 points. So in the last 8, he's scored in the last 8 of 10. And while the Senators have only won 2 of those games, Josh Norris is trying to will the Senators along. And unfortunately, they just can't get it done. But you're wearing the sweater. Anything about Josh Norris there, Cap?
No, man, like you love to see it because he had that injury at the beginning of the year, and I feel like he went IR, and so it felt like, oh no, maybe not necessarily a lost season, but like he was gonna be out for a while, and yeah, he missed a good couple weeks, but to finally come back, wake up. We talk about McKinnon earlier on in the year when like Colorado kind of went into a lull. This is what stars do: is they put the team on their back, and whether they win or not is irrelevant. Play hard and try to will the team to win. That goes a long way. So Josh Norris coming back from injury and having a tear like this, you love to see it.
The guys who are supposed to score have to score goals.
Yep.
If you're going to be a superstar, you got to put it in the net. I'm looking at you, Austin Matthews. I'm looking at you, PLD. Austin Matthews at least shows up recently over the last couple weeks as I've been chirping him. PLD still a ghost on the ice. But that's a whole other conversation. Our second star this week, I'm going to let you take this one. Kirill Kaprizov, Justin. I'm going to set you up here. Over the last 7, he's scored 4 goals in the last 5 games, tallied 7 points over that stretch. And over this last week, Kirill has finally put in 4 goals, 3 assists, and 7 points. I'm gonna let you go here on this, but I want to give you this one. Has Kirill actually shown up, or is this still just the new coach bump up, or do you think he's actually finally shown up?
That's what I was going to say. Is I wonder which this is. Like it you got to imagine a player of Kaprizov's caliber. He's finally shown up. I want to give him the benefit of the doubt because
I'd like to. He's on my fantasy team and I can't cut him.
Yeah. Well, and also that club needs it. They have no money. They can't make any flashy moves at the deadline. So that club needs the guy that scores goals to score goals, and Kaprizov's supposed to be that guy for them. So I want to give him the benefit of the doubt and say he's really shown up, and I couldn't be happier for this club that was making me, I don't want to say they were making me miserable, but like they were making me look stupid all season. And
yeah, same.
So you love to see it, and you love to see it for Kaprizov.
Well, he's making me look stupid too because he was my first round draft pick in fantasy. So, and I can't cut him, which has been annoying. Like I really would have cut him about 3 weeks ago. Truly, he was not performing. But a guy that has performed, I know you don't necessarily like it, but Showtime Patty Kane is our first star of the week for showing up because, I mean, truly, he's played 10 games for the Detroit Red Wings. He only hasn't scored in 2 of those 10 games. He has shown up since coming back from his injury. Over the last week, he has 4 games played. He has 4 goals, 4 assists, and 8 points. And Detroit, I wouldn't necessarily say they're on a tear because they have lost 1, 2, 3, 4 of the last 10, but they're still making moves. They're trying to get into that playoff spot in the Atlantic. I did bring on Patty Kane on the fantasy team weeks and weeks ago when he hadn't even signed yet, because I just foresaw that he would perform. And hey, he's performing. Showtime's showing up.
Well, you hate to be the broken record, but like this is exactly why they picked him up. This is exactly what they wanted from Patty Kane, and he basically willed them to that win over Philadelphia last week, the 7-6 game.
Oh my God! I mean, woof.
Yeah,
woof. That was a tough one to watch. That was really tough to watch.
Detroit had for the record, in case anybody did not, because we as a group were watching it, at least you and I were, 5-1 at one point.
At the first period, yeah.
In the first period, 5-1, Detroit leads. It ends up going into overtime, like within like the last couple of minutes, even.
Well, it went to a shootout.
Yeah,
yeah. And I said, because I was chirping Corey about it, but I was like, "But listen, Reimer is in the goal, so literally you could just shoot the puck 3 times, you might score. Shoot the puck 5 times, you'll probably score 3." And lo and behold, They
Lo and
did.
behold, they
Lo and
did.
behold, they did. Yeah, it was not a it as a fan, like, yeah, that's fun. It was a lot. That's what Bettman wants, those games to be
Mhm.
high scoring, high energy like that. But as a fan, you're kind of also like, boys, can we play some defense? Can you stop a puck, please?
Yeah.
But that's a whole other conversation. Let's pull the goalie here, Captain. This weekend, well, technically it's next Monday, the Winter Classic, Seattle Kraken versus the Vegas Golden Knights at T-Mobile Arena in Seattle, not Vegas. And our friend Tina, they'll be there. I'm
Yeah.
really jealous about that.
Me too. I don't know if you follow them on Instagram, but I've been watching, or yeah, between Instagram and Twitter, I've been watching the story unfold of them going to Arizona, seeing them at Mullet Arena. Then they went
I,
to Anaheim and Los Angeles. I'm so jealous.
I missed out on the Anaheim and Arizona portion, but I did see the LA portion at Crypto, and that looked like they had really good seats. So I'm a
Yeah,
little jelly. I'm a little jelly.
super jealous.
Actually,
Because,
I'm a lot jealous. Truly.
yeah, man, I want to go to all. I want to go to all of these barns. Like, I mean, you could say that about all of them. Yeah, I want to go to all of the barns, but like those ones specifically, those West Coast barns. Oh God, I want to go to all of them.
Yeah, I feel like, when we've chirped this about Mullet, being, a college barn, but man, I feel like the atmosphere there, especially right now, is probably top tier. So
Yeah, man.
I would love to get there before they, fingers crossed, hopefully get a new arena, just to be part of that vibe. So real quick, a couple of news and notes here. First of all, we're gonna give more love to the Vancouver Canucks since I'm wearing that sweater today. The Canucks are the first Canadian franchise to sit atop the NHL's overall standings at Christmas since the Ottawa Senators in 2005. That's from the Daily Faceoff. So that's pretty dope news as we continue to love on the Vancouver Canucks. Also, the Vancouver Canucks head into the holiday break, leading the league in points, regulation wins, goals scored, and goal differential. Can we possibly see a Canadian Stanley Cup champion and it not be Montreal or Toronto?
I would be so happy. Look, man, again, broken records on this show sometimes, but like the amount of happiness I have for the Vancouver Canucks being this good, like the last thing I want is like a tank. I would love, love, love for them to just continue to press on, and because are, are they world beaters? Only time will tell. But it just at least getting to the cup for this club that we were bored out of our minds with.
Yeah, honestly, I can say the thing that I don't necessarily love being wrong, but I am full on good with being wrong, especially
Yeah.
for a team like the Vancouver Canucks, because I was way down on them when we did our preseason episode. I couldn't even come up with a buy or sell or an over under when we talked about that. I was so flustered with like this team. I think I said, quote, "This team is so boring and I don't know what they're doing." I am so glad to be wrong. I am so glad to be on the bandwagon. I'll say it. Yeah, I got a Pedersen sweater. I'm on the bandwagon 100%. I love to be wrong in this situation. Absolutely love it. So wouldn't necessarily say I'm prepared to say they're the next Stanley Cup champion, because obviously I picked the Knights. And until they prove me wrong, I'm still going with that. And what's the show if I don't chirp the Toronto Maple Leafs? So I saw this from SD Sports, whatever the kid, doesn't matter. But they talked about the Toronto Maple Leafs have never won 3 rounds in their entire franchise. When the last cup that they won, they only won 2 rounds. They have never won 3 rounds in their entire franchise, ever, not once. And my chirp is, and they never will. And that is hilarious to me.
Yeah.
Wow. Toronto,
What a stat.
you suck. Anyway, that's just my chirp to the Toronto Maple Leafs, which is what I do because I hate them. Somebody I don't hate, though, I absolutely love, Marc-Andre Fleury-Flower is now only one win away from tying Patrick Waugh for second all-time wins as a goalie. Of course, I had my Flower sweater last week, and then he won. I think it was the next day. So stick taps to Flower, arguably greatest goaltender of all time. Next to Marty, of course. We talked about it last week. I don't think he's ever going to get close to Marty, but taking second is great. I love that. So he's only one win away. Or 2 wins, I guess, from being second all time. So that's Captain. You got anything else?
Yes, I need to throw this in here because I put him up as a 3-star candidate, and you rightfully said no. And I thought about it, and I was being too Homer. But this is the perfect place for me to be Homer.
Give us it's your show too, bud.
You love to see Timo Meier finally show up, and again, is he setting the world on fire? No, but the dude, if you watch any Devils games, you can see that he's nursing something. Something's wrong. Like I don't know if it's just an injury that he's just working through, but he's skating kind of soft. They finally put him on aligned with Mike McLeod and Dawson Mercer, and that line against Detroit, they looked great. And I hope Lindy doesn't line blend again and screw up the chemistry. But Timo Meier, 3 goals in 2 games. I just wanted to give a nice little stick tap to Timo Meier for hopefully working out of whatever funk he's in, because that club, especially the way he scored, desperately needs him to score the way he's scored those 3 goals, like gritty, up close, putting away rebounds. Like, desperately need that. They don't all need to be snipes, folks. They just need to go in the net and
just get the garbage, get those garbage goals. They still count on the scoreboard. That's all that matters.
And that's why we got him. That's why we got him, was for that, to be the menace up front. And if we can get Timo to be a menace up front, can you imagine what can come from that? Again, you can point to the win against Detroit. That's a start. So little stick tap for Timo. Not enough to earn a star for the week, but a little stick tap for the man.
But if he continues to show up over the next week, he might find himself on the list. He might make the list. Pen click, you know what I mean? He might be there. Anyway, so hopefully everybody be safe out there for the New Year's weekend, and don't do dumb stuff. But next week we'll be back with some more chirp stuff. I'll probably chirp at the Toronto Maple Leafs and PLD. More than likely, there'll probably be a superstar update next week, so you can be prepared for that. So until then, play to the whistle, keep your head up, stick taps and sellies, boys. Clap it up.